Okay, time is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Village of Suffern Planning Board to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. First up on the agenda, IV2 Rockland Logistics LLC.
Chair, how are you?
Good, how are you? Hope you had a good holiday.
Yeah, hope you did too, and everyone on the board. Came and went quickly. Here again, Darius Shafazeta for the applicant. We're here again on the seeker process, and I think we're at the goal line, looking to move the ball over and acceptance of the FEIS tonight. We're here to answer any questions you may have. We have our whole team here, so whatever you have, we can try to answer. I don't know if you want to hear from Bonnie or anyone else.
Did you want to go more through the process that's transpired, or?
In the last couple of weeks? Or in general?
I guess in general.
On the EIS? Well, I mean, the whole seeker process, as you know, we've been engaged in it for, I guess, a little over a year now. The DEIS was accepted. We've been working with Bonnie's team in the village and your board on the FEIS. I believe you've received copies of our revised FEIS after comments from your staff and your expert consultants. And, you know, we think we're ready to go to have the board accept the FEIS and take it to the next stage of SECRA. And we hope that can happen tonight.
Do you want to sort of present your side, or does anybody on the board have any questions about the FEIS?
Well, I guess, why don't you address, there was an email from the State Department of Transportation.
Sure.
Do you want to address that?
We can do that. So we did receive an email today, or you did, and our client did today this afternoon from DOT about certain improvements they'd like to see as part of the project. And as you know, the SECRA process is not complete yet. And we spoke earlier today, me and Mr. Magrino, about the responses, and we feel that if possible and permitted, the applicant will comply with DOT requirements as part of its work permit. If they require something and it's reasonable and we agree with it, we will do it.
Okay.
We think that could be part of the SECRA process, that's one of the requirements.
Did you want to address that, Bonnie?
I guess I wanted to address the one comment that it's
Actually, Bonnie, would you mind going to the podium just so we can capture the audio? Thank you.
So they can hear you.
So no, just in the presentation right now, I think you said something to the effect of if it's agreeable, so I wasn't sure what you meant.
Well, I know there's certain things that they may require during the work permit process. I mean, exaggerate if they ask for something, you got to do X, Y, Z, that's completely not even feasible or possible, obviously. That's something that we can't do, but if during the work permit process, we don't anticipate anything that's not feasible. We've had a lot of discussions with them, our traffic people are here, we think we can work with them and finalize whatever work permits requirements they need.
Bonnie, yeah.
Sure.
So, and Sam may have given you this overview, but I'll, repeat it. The applicant submitted their proposal for the 3 warehouses. You determined that there may be a potential adverse impact under seeker and issued a positive declaration indicating the applicant should provide an environmental impact statement. The applicant prepared a draft environmental impact statement. We, as your consultants, recommended changes to it in terms of fully evaluating what those impacts would be, and ultimately you all accepted it as complete for public review. So then the DEIS is made available for a certain time period for the public to also comment on it. And there were some comments issued by the public, which the FEIS, the purpose of it is to respond to them. And so that, in essence, is what your final environmental impact statement is. It also addressed areas where studies may not have been done fully as anticipated in accordance with adopted scoping document, which was the outline for the EIS. So that also is described in the final environmental impact statement. So during this time period, one of the things we had requested, and I believe Sam from our office mentioned to you, was we wanted to get a sense from agencies whether, because they're separate involved agencies, they have permitting authority, but you're leading the overall process. Before we closed everything out, we wanted to make sure those other agencies were okay with what was proposed. And in particular, the two agencies which we were concerned about were Army Corps of Engineers, because we hadn't really heard from them that they found some proposed mitigations were acceptable, as well as New York State DOT. And so by the time, I believe, of your last meeting, we had received responses from U.S. Army Corps of Engineer, but not DOT, from the perspective of they were indicating that they were not complete with their review. So during that time period, there has been additional communication, and in fact, there was a meeting this past Monday with the New York State DOT and the applicant, and all, again, to try and close out the seeker process, and you saw the results of the letter. I know there'd been some discussion of potentially going into just attorney-client privilege to talk a little bit more in detail, that you might want to do that, prior to accepting the FEIS. I'm going to defer to the attorney and the chairman if you want to do that.
Yeah, I think we just want to consult briefly with our counsel. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. McInerney, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Halper. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. We'll be
Okay,
back.
just for the record, the purpose that you're indicating you want to consult with counsel, not necessarily an executive session, but it's kind of the same. So we'll call an executive session to meet with counsel.
Thank you.
And then you'd like me to be there?
Yes, you can certainly
Okay.
be present.
All right, can I have a motion to come out of executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, I think it was Mr. Dale. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Bonnie, if you would like to.
So I'm just, for the public record, going to have a brief summary of some of the items that we discussed and where we are in the process with New York State DOT. So today, you had received the email from New York State DOT, and I did a follow-up call rather than going back and forth. And I spoke with Jason Brenner, and I spoke with Lance Gurney, I believe it is. And they were giving me their summary of how the review of the project has transpired. They indicated they heard from the applicant essentially in April of 2023, which is when they received the draft environmental impact statement, which they reviewed, and that they had submitted comments to the applicant's traffic engineer via email. They said May 12th, 2023. From their perspective, they indicated they didn't hear anything from the applicant until October of 2023. And then ultimately, they met with the applicant this past Monday. And so from their perspective, they feel that this has been recent in terms of reviewing the mitigation plans, et cetera, and that they haven't had sufficient time to look at it. And in looking at it, they believe that there are mitigations that are being proposed that are just not feasible, given the reality of the road geometrics. The specific intersections that are in question are the Hemian Road and the Airmont Road intersections. And in terms of the improvements, what they've specifically discussed is having 2 left turn lanes going from Route 59 eastbound onto Hemian Road northbound, and having as well 2 eastbound left turn lanes onto Airmont Road, going northbound toward the thruway. So those are the 2 particular mitigations. There are other mitigations that are proposed, but those are the ones where, from their perspective, they're concerned about capacity at the intersections, which are kind of the, the bottlenecks. So they had specifically said in that email they didn't want the village to close the seeker process. I asked them if there was language put into the FEIS and into the resolution that ensured that they would have the opportunity to continue to work with the applicant and review it prior to site plan approval. They would be okay, even though in the best of all worlds, they would want the village to wait. And so my understanding is that the application, and I spoke to Terry Darius, that the application does need a variance. So there's going to be a little bit of time to have to process that. And then you also are going to go through the site plan review and approval process. So there is a bit of time before you get to, the goal line. And that during this time period between the FEIS, if you decide to accept it tonight, and prior to site plan approval, that the applicant can diligently work to get together with DOT and come up with a solution in terms of the mitigations. As I said to you, they've indicated the potential that some right-of-way may have to be acquired. We've said that that right-of-way is in other communities that the village does not control. So, it's up to DOT to have that conversation with the applicant and those other municipalities and determine what can be done. So, with that all said, I would recommend that if you want to deem the FEIS complete this evening, that you consider in your resolution, kind of a condition that the applicant work with DOT actively and diligently to define sort of the final conceptual mitigations, and that they do that prior to site plan approval, and that we put language to that effect in the FEIS. And I don't know if the applicant finds that reasonable.
That's fine.
That's pretty much what you said at the beginning, is that, good faith, best effort, so to speak, and I'd like to hear from the other board members, but I think that this applicant has been very accommodating throughout the process, so you don't have an issue with that?
Yep.
So any of the board members have any questions or anything for the applicant? Okay. So we're essentially in agreement. That's essentially what you said when you started. Okay.
Exactly, Mr. Chairman.
It sounds like what, Bonnie's saying is coordinate with DOT. You should be really meeting with them
and Rockland County Highway Department, only because that's on Hemian Road, that's their road, so.
Yeah, there's been some correspondence meetings with them, but we will work with them diligently over the next 30 to 45 days to get this finalized. Yes, I think we should.
Good evening. Ryan McDermott, Civil Engineering Consultant on behalf of the applicant with Dynamic Engineering. I think we would just like to clarify the timing implications of all this. Obviously, we're happy to work with the DOT. We're going to have to work with the DOT over the next several months to address all of their comments. We're going to need a permit from them. And as much as the applicant would like, unfortunately, they can't put a shovel in the ground until they have all outstanding permits. So part of that is the commercial highway work permit, which we are working with them on. As kind of has become the norm for the DOT, we get comments at the 11th hour right before these meetings. Same thing happened 2 weeks ago. So we continue to work diligently with them. We will be happy to do so, absolutely. I would just like to clarify the timing of that. Typically, that would run concurrently with the site plan approval process. So if we're talking about conditioning this upon working something out with the DOT, that's probably not going to be resolved until that commercial highway work permit is issued several months from now.
Yeah, so we aren't asking the village isn't asking, we're not anticipating that you're going to have everything solved as far as the design and the engineering. We're looking for something, and the word I had was conceptual sign-off. Similar to what we were trying to do right now is just to understand what the mitigations are going to be, what the obligations are. But again, certainly, we can't do the engineering. You have to, there's a lot more that goes to it, of course. Yeah.
But I think the answer is sooner is...
Yeah, as soon as possible, as far as, yeah,
Since it's
getting...
conceptual, it's not...
Yeah, and then ultimately, the improvements are done, between building permit issuance and prior to C of O. All that actual improvement work is done after site plan approval, while they get, and usually you condition your site plan on getting the highway work permit completed.
Right.
As part of the C of O requirement.
So you're saying conceptual, we're saying good faith effort, I think.
It's the same, yeah.
Same concept, yes.
Yep. So my suggested language in terms of the resolution was something to the effect of, prior to site plan approval, applicant shall actively and diligently coordinate with New York State DOT and Rockland County Department of Highways and receive conceptual sign-off on mitigations necessary to address the significant adverse impacts created by the Rockland Logistics Project. And I say that because it's their project to mitigate, not everybody's, problems. The FEIS shall be amended prior to circulation to conform to the email transmitted by Jason Brenner of New York State DOT on 11/29/23 and this resolution. So that's my suggested language. If you want to, again, I suggest you add that if you want to entertain completeness this evening.
Right. So I've prepared, or Bonnie and I prepared a proposed resolution. You can assume or vote on that with the language that Bonnie just suggested in there, and then we'll just, we'll tidy it up tomorrow and make sure so that Melissa has it for the record.
Was there anything they wanted to say after Bonnie?
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, okay, great.
You good? Anyone else have any questions or comments?
So if somebody wants to make a motion to accept the FEIS and in the form that we just discussed.
Do we have a motion to accept the FEIS in the format that we just discussed?
I will make that motion.
Mr. Dale, do I have a second?
I will second.
Mr. McInerney, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Next on the agenda is a sign application. I do not see the applicant. Do we have any old business?
No.
Any new business?
No.
Do you want to do the sign up, Chairman?
You can. Well, I don't have, do we have?
It was fine. Okay. All right, you know what? We'll vote on the sign application. Anybody have any questions on it? The building inspector did say it was okay. All
I'll
right.
make a motion, we approve the sign application.
Motion made, Mr. Dale. Do we have a second? Mr. Halper, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, we have to confirm the date. The next meeting is December 13, 2023. I have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Dale, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. McInerney, all in favor say aye. Aye. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Halper, do we have a second? Or you guys want to stay here?
All right, I'll second.
All right, Mr. Van Sickle, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.